Before we get into your 10 stocks, you've suggested I choose a stock of the day. I thought we'd take a look at A2 Milk. Out today, they had their investor day, and warning of a prolonged period of reduced profitability as the business was upended by COVID and changes in its crucial China market. The company adding consumers in China, no longer actively prioritising international brands, and regulation of its industry from Beijing is anticipated to change more rapidly. In response, A2 says it will look to expand its infant formula portfolio in a bid to appeal to more consumers and maximise distribution. So it's in the calls portfolio, so time for a bit of a reassessment. Michael, what do you think of A2? Been absolutely hammered. I got in the calls portfolio about 2 or 3 months ago by one of the panels, saying it's great management, been smashed by the China issue, and there was an expectation of be able to bounce back.
Look, I can see why people would think that, but when the company's going, I think this is their 4th, maybe even their 5th downgrade in like 18 months or so. Ideally, I think you want to see that turnaround story start to play out before you jump in. Management have come out today and listed numerous uncertainties, ranging from the China child birth rate to the lower tier cities in China no longer being in love with A2 Milk and focusing on some of the more local products. So these things are going to take some time to play out. From reading the headlines briefly, it does seem like management have come out really and just cleared the decks, going for a fresh start, really setting expectations as low as possible.
It was so bad, it reminded me of a new chief executive gets into a company and goes, right, I'm just going to clean the cupboard out, start afresh and build my bonuses from here.
Yeah, what do they say? Lower expectations to achieve success. So that's essentially what I think's happened today.
Look at that, almost $20 down to $6 in a year.
It's a company we had held in the past, and going back to previous roles and previous jobs as well. It's a company that we liked. It was a very simple business model. You package up someone else's infant milk formula, you brand it quite nicely, market it nicely, and then all the Chinese people coming to Australia, bringing it back home to China. And they weren't really selling through conventional channels, and that really came home to roost with COVID, obviously, when we couldn't have any people come into the country or leave. So hopefully that does start to pick up for them again over time, but I don't think it's going to bounce back near as quickly. And in that interim, it seems as though other products and other brands have filled their gap, so to speak. So it's not going to be an easy turnaround, and I think that's becoming more and more clear as time goes on.
So you wouldn't be buying it at these levels?
I would be very, very careful still.
Andrew, what do you reckon of A2 Milk? And everyone talks about Daigou's and that channel as Michael was talking about, but basically they were Chinese international tourists and students who would go basically to Chemist Warehouse or Coles and buy up all the milk formula and ship it back and charge extortionate prices from their relatives and friends.
Yeah, and it was a very valuable item over there. There was some issues in years gone by with some tainted locally produced product. Australia was seen as very clean, very green, particularly with the English label product out there. So it was profitable for everyone. But China is really this double-edged sword. I mean, we saw the same with Blackmores not too long ago. When you start to get a bit of traction there, this is such a massive market that, you start to see some really strong sales growth there. The multiples go up as the market continues to extrapolate, but we've also seen how fast that market, how quickly the rug can be pulled out from underneath you here. Now, COVID's obviously an extraneous factor that's no one particular person's fault here as well. But you've now got some really big shifts happening in China, increasing nationalism there. The Chinese government wants local manufacturers to make up something like 60% of consumption within the next 3 years. Michael talked about falling birth rates and other factors there at play, and just increasing competition. So it's really, I think this points to the dangers of extrapolation in these kinds of markets where things can change so rapidly. So could they get back to where they were? Potentially. Would I bet on it? I don't think so. It's just too much uncertainty. I've got to say personally, for me as well, I'm always a little bit nervous of companies whose product claim is a little bit spurious. There's a lot of health benefits touted with this kind of stuff, but I've yet to see any hardcore evidence that that's the case. So you are very much reliant on some pretty good marketing there. But at the end of the day, it's a commodity, and there's other people are able to produce this kind of stuff. Consumer sentiment can change very, very rapidly. So it's one of these things where, is it impossible that they turn around? Absolutely not. But even if that's the case, I think it's going to take a while. And if they don't, things are going to be very difficult for a long time. So I suspect it's a value trap, but it's just too risky for me. I'm going to stay away.